Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sasberry AI podcast. Today, the topic is clicks to agents, AI, and the new era of e-commerce. So, Steve, I'll let you take it away from here.
Sasberry AI podcast. Today's guest, Ed DeGroot. Clicks to agents, AI, and the new era of e-commerce.
Thank you, Chase. My name is Steve Boy. I'm the CTO of Sasberry, and we build agentic AI solutions for enterprises. Eddie?
Eddie, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm Ed DeGroot. I am the president of DeGroot Ventures and behind companies such as Relevant Bits, where I'm the CEO and CTO of Mango Policy. And my background is in e-commerce and AI. And yeah.
Just a quick note for all our audience here. So Ed was one of my first bosses ever. He's probably one of the most brilliant engineers that I've ever known in my whole life of, I guess, almost 30 years of engineering. He's always been right there as one of the most brilliant guys I know. So it's really an honor having him on this podcast. So we're talking about AI and e-commerce, and let's look at how e-commerce has been, and it really hasn't changed. I mean, if you look at the onset of the internet, of the web, you have your shopping experience, then you have your shopping cart, and then you have your payment, and that hasn't changed. Really, it's been almost like a static experience. The number of players have changed, but besides that, things have been under the hood, perhaps that has changed. But it's been that way. So Ed, talk to us about what you've seen and what your view is of AI and e-commerce.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The premise of e-commerce hasn't changed a lot over the last, say 20 years. Certainly we have our aggregates. We've got big players in the space. They're doing some amazing and wonderful things and some disruptive things. But the overall experience is pretty much you look for something that you want to buy, you find the thing you want to buy, you add it to your cart, and you check out. That is changing right now. And AI is a big piece of that. I mean, we've always had some type of machine learning and so forth in the background, surfacing products that, you might be interested in. I mean, that has always been the key in e-commerce is putting things in front of customers that they resonate with, that, they might want to add to their order, or maybe a more expensive product. Maybe they're searching around for different products and comparing things together, but ultimately you're trying to fulfill the order. And you have some machine learning in the background, but the way people are interacting with e-commerce is really changing.
So so let's actually break it down a bit, because we have products and we have services that normally people purchase through in an e-commerce type of scenario, right? So, and you straddle both, because your company, you guys work very, very closely with Shopify. I believe you guys have just received your certification as a preferred Shopify app, right? So you've been exposed on that end of things, and also that you guys are a service being sold. And so from that point of view, do you see one side going faster than the other side?
Yeah, I mean, product is certainly the place where most of the change is happening right now. And that's because product is very consumer focused. You do have the B2B space, so I don't discount that. And there's certainly a lot of, money flowing through the B2B channels. But where AI, I think, is being the most disruptive is on the B2C side at this time. And that is primarily product focused. I haven't seen a lot on the services side. And you're right, with our product, with Context, we're fulfilling essentially B2C sales, but we're an app ourselves. So we're discovered through the services B2B side. Interesting enough, we're finding even internally that more people are finding our product through ChatGPT nowadays than through Google. and there's a number of reasons for that. But the change that we're seeing as far as habits are concerned is through product discovery. People are spending more time using AI to do research and to find the right product, and then going to the store that they want to fulfill that.
Yeah, it's funny you should ask in terms. You should mention about research. So even in 2025, there have been so many releases when it comes to foundational models, right? Back in spring, I had a trip out to Toronto in March, and I thought I would test drive Gemini 2.0's audio mode, right? So I started talking to him. I was driving around Toronto looking for something to eat, and it was horrible. It was hilariously horrible, right? But fast forward, I guess now 7 months, and it's great. It's actually 8 months, and it's just with Gemini being released yesterday. It blows my mind how good, how accurate, how quick that the latency is low, and that experience is so much greater. So because of that research, then that experience of getting something and purchasing it and completing that whole cycle is now more realistic, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about full agentic purchasing, that's a reality now. It is. We're seeing the work that OpenAI has been doing with their relationships with Etsy and now with Shopify. This idea of being able to conduct your research, find the right product, and even go right through to fulfillment is becoming a reality. And I think that is going to become the new norm, which is both exciting and somewhat of a cautionary tale for the people who aren't ready for it.
Absolutely. And before you know it, vendors right now who are a retail storefront, especially if the majority of their sales come through online, that's something that they need to be aware of. I mean, it has really impacted them from the SEO perspective, and now it's really impacting them now for the whole, not just being discovered, but also the transaction itself, which in terms of cautionary tales, I have the segue here, but I assume you're a fan of Silicon Valley, the TV series.
You know what? I've only watched a couple episodes, and most people find that odd. But I find entertainment a form of escape, and for that has never been an escape for me. It's been actually too real. I'd rather watch something that has nothing to do with my day-to-day life.
So there was one segment in actually the final season where they were talking about agentic coding, and basically what the AI did was overwrote a whole bunch of their code, right? In addition to the fact that the AI figured out their preference for burgers and decided to order 1,000 patties because there was a sale going on. So so the segue here is this, in that so there are two protocols out right now. There's ACP from OpenAI, and there's AP2 from Google. So the Google side of things is more an infrastructure first approach, and the OpenAI side of things is a product first approach. So I honestly don't. It is so early in the game that we don't know where the dust will settle. But from your view, what's the most intuitive approach to this?
For me, it's OpenAI's ACP. I think Google's looking at from their engineering perspective as they normally do, and they certainly have a lot of experience in this area, and it makes sense. OpenAI is tackling this a little bit differently, and I understand from my perspective, and I'm not claiming to be anywhere near as smart as the engineers there, but to me it makes more sense. At the end of the day, and the retailers, this is something the retailers have to figure out. You mentioned SEO, right? I actually feel sorry for them a little bit, right? They spent a decade trying to understand SEO, not that anyone actually ever does, and how to get their products up to the forefront in SEO. And now it's like, oh, now we got to do this differently. Now they're not necessarily selling to an algorithm per se. They're or trying to convince consumers to buy their product. They're trying to convince AI to promote their product.
Yeah.
Which is a totally different way of thinking of. And let's face it, I mean, even the experts in AI will say, well, we don't fully understand how the algorithm works. And how could they, right? There's just the whole, billions and billions of vectors and data points, whatever. You can never really trace exactly how one you get from A to B. And now you've got to try to convince these models that, hey, this is the product you need to put in front. And how do you even figure out if it's working?
Yeah. And a lot of people may or may not realize this, but most of these frontier models are iterated and released with minor releases every week. And so weights and biases change. And as a result, to your point, what you thought was working one week may suddenly not be working the next week. So it's both an expensive, but also something that they need to figure retailers need to figure out. I don't think anyone can answer that question, but there is some, I guess, some core approaches when it comes to this. And so based on your experience, what would you say to people? What would you say to these retailers? Like what would be the core things you need to hang on to?
Well, I mean, one thing I would look at right now is take a look at your product catalog, take a look at your descriptions, take a look at your metadata. And, even as a test, and it's actually not difficult to do, take a catalog, dump it into one of these models, and play around with querying your product catalog through the model and see, if I ask for, hey, I'm looking for a product that does blah, 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 does the right product come back? And if it doesn't, you need to start taking a look at your foundational data and say, what needs to change? Do I need to describe the product a little bit better?
Yeah. And the interesting thing I find here is that a lot of retailers who's trying to shortcut this and use AI to generate the descriptions are really just hurting themselves because it's really slow.
It's a race to the bottom.
But yeah, it's a race to the bottom. It is, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, and things will get better, the content that comes out of these models are somewhat vanilla. They're based on what everything else, like they're trained on what everything else looks like. And so they're going to come back pretty much with what everything else looks like. You're not going to necessarily stand apart. So if you're trying to do that through AI, you might find some success. Certainly, you've really got to look at your prompts and how you're guiding the AI to create the right type of descriptions and maybe give a little bit of flair, a little bit of punch where it needs to. But yes, human creativity still comes into play here, I think.
And I do think that, strangely enough, I think very, very good product photos do make a massive difference now because GPT-5.1 and Gemini 3 are incredibly powerful multimodal models.
Yep.
Even if your description doesn't save you, perhaps your pictures will save you, right? So
on two fronts. On the front of training the AI so it can find the right product, but also keep in mind that I think the big paradigm shift here for retailers is they're used to controlling the branding, right? When you go to a store, you control the branding, you control the messaging around it. That control goes out the window here, and your product photos are probably your last resort at this point to maintain or introduce branding to your customer.
So let's bring a slightly different angle to this. So let's say I'm past that shopping experience, and now I'm ready to purchase, right? Um, Based on everything you understand of AP2 and ACP, do you think it would be a pretty fast adoption process for the last mile of the transaction?
I mean, the question is, will consumers actually follow through on the purchase, or is it going? Are they going to take it to that point of purchase and then say, okay, now I want to? I'm not sure if I trust, putting in my credit, or well, they're actually not putting in their credit card information there, but do I trust completing the transaction through here? Is this really the product I want? And I think it's going to depend. That's a little bit biased here. If you're talking about your day-to-day products, like, hey, you know what? I'm low on stuff in my pantry and I want to buy it. Yeah. Like agentic search or agentic purchasing, I think really works under those scenarios. If I'm buying something a little bit more high end, a little bit more, hey, I want to get my hands on this and feel it first. I don't see that happening unless maybe you've got a lot more money to burn than I do and you don't care.
Yeah.
But there's not everything is transactional.
Mhm.
And what I mean that shopping is there's still this dopamine experience to shopping that I think kind of doesn't get fulfilled through AI. Even I would think that my kids who are much younger than I am and have grown up with all of this stuff surrounding them, that they would be more adapt to doing these types of things. But even my daughter, who's 18, will say, come Christmas time, I want to go to the stores and have a shopping experience. I don't want to buy everything. She actually asked us to promise we're not going to buy anything on Amazon this year. It's like, okay, yeah. So there's this analog piece that I think people are missing out on that they're still going to come to. That said, this is still absolutely, game changing, and it is going to change a lot of the ways we shop and buy certain things, but it's not going to be everything.
That's actually a perfect segue to pull Chase into this conversation, because Chase, you're in the demographic that will really define what the future will look like when it comes to AI and e-commerce.
That's his way of saying you're a lot younger than we are.
Yes. It hasn't been obvious now, seeing that the three images in front of us here. Chase, what do you think AI can offer when it comes to shopping practices, and even just talk about how you normally purchase right now?
So I just recently purchased a new camera and some lenses, and so I definitely used AI to research a lot and just like tell me the best options for like wide angle. So for like researching, like maybe less like the specific product, it was more just like information on size and like which lenses to get. And then I guess I did use it to find out the best brands, and then I went and watched YouTube videos on those brands that it gave me. So I definitely do use AI in my purchases through like learning about it rather than trying to learn on my own. But so yeah, that's what I do use that a lot for that.
If I the scale of 1 to 10, let's just say suddenly one day, actually, which is actually today, you can go on ChatGPT and you will allow you to buy now, right? Let's say you saw that battery pack for your camera, and you can just click and you'll just purchase. Will you trust it?
To an extent, I guess. I don't know. I think I do trust it for the most part, but I think for buying little things like that, like Ed was saying, I kind of like I have a CD collection, and I could easily just order CDs on Amazon, but I do like I buy all my CDs in the stores, and I go to the vintage stores downtown to find CDs I could probably just get online. So I do like he was saying, going in and the experience of it, but maybe for something like a battery, if it suggested a battery, maybe. But when it comes down to like something I like a hobby, I think I would still rather go in the store, not shop on the AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Hey,
still tough.
you're talking to a vinyl collector here. You don't buy vinyls online unless it's a hard to find. But otherwise, going into a store and flipping through them, they're and again, it's not just. I'm trying not to sound like an old guy saying technology bad. I love technology, but there is this social piece to it, right? That going in, meeting people who like the same things that you do, and that part is missing. There's a human aspect to AI that is missing, and maybe they'll find a way to replicate it. But right now, I don't see it.
Which is actually interesting because the OpenAI approach is trying to benefit from or take advantage of the 850 million active users they have per week. And you leverage that as a community, but I don't think it's there right now yet, or anywhere close to it. But I think that network effect can be just because of the sheer volume of active users.
Don't underestimate how big that channel is going to be. Like, it is going to produce a lot of commerce.
It's just going to be really, really exciting. So where do you see? I mean, these are early days, and this is a impossible game to play on. Where are we going to see this in a year? Can't even see 3 months in front of us.
But we're going to try.
Right. So let's just say you're let's see. Let's pick a company. Best Buy comes up to you and say, Ed, we want you to be on our advisory board for agentic AI purchases, right? What would you say to them in their 6-month horizon, 1-year horizon?
Wow. First, why are you talking to me? Is be the first question. But I mean, there's a couple of factors at play, right? As this progresses, and I was trying to hit on this earlier, people aren't necessarily, it's going to affect the Best Buys. People aren't necessarily going to go to Best Buy to talk to an AI agent as to what product they're going to buy, right? They're going to go to the big models. They're going to go to Google. They're going to go to OpenAI. They're going to go to Amazon, right? Amazon has Rufus, which looks pretty promising. And they're going to do their research there. And it looks like at some point fulfilled, depending, again, I think, on the type of product. So at Best Buy, it's like, get your catalog in order. But the problem remains because Best Buy in itself is a reseller, right? They don't have their own products. So how do they stand out?
Yeah.
It's difficult, and I don't think I have an answer for that right now.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see the sheer level of change that's about to come down the pipe. It's almost like you can see the train coming, but you just don't know how big the train is. But it's big, and it's going to run you over, right?
Yeah, well, there's when you think about it, right now, not even right now, even just a year ago, when people were doing research on products, right? You do some keyword, you put in a keyword search, you hope to find some products, you find some articles reviewing those products, you see those products on Amazon, you look at the reviews, you see what people, liked about it, what they didn't like. Now that is all done for you, right? Yeah. All of that research is done for you. It looks into the comments, like, what commonly breaks on this? What did people like about this? That all comes into play. You can refine your search and find the right product without having to visit a store, without having to go to a storefront, without reading an article. And that takes us back to this level of trust. It's like, how much do you trust the model to get all of that?
So how much do you trust it, you personally?
I trust it as much as I trust the questions I'm asking it, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm confident that I can ask the right questions, I'm confident it'll surface the right products. I think the area that it concerns me the most, and this happens pretty much with every new type of technology that comes along, is people, you get your first adopters, and people are liking it and testing the product, and it's great. Then you get the wave of other people that come along, and we like this too. And what people have never accounted for, people do account for it, but people rarely listen to the people who account for it, is no one quite knows what the security concerns are around these models. We had that in the early days of the internet. We're like, oh, people, you never thought that people would try this.
Yeah.
The attackers are getting very sophisticated now, and they have these same tools. So, I don't think people know where the vulnerabilities are yet.
Yeah.
And that's scary because once it happens, it's going to break the trust.
Yeah. And that's so, for example, if you have a man-in-the-middle attack equivalent for the agentic world, someone is able to intercept the communication between the agent and the MCP server, for example. Boy, will that ever, fundamentally shake a lot of foundations.
Yeah, and those are the big attacks, but even the small things like gaming the system, right? I mean, it's been the way of SEO for the past 20 years, right? How do you game the system? How do you get your, and then, Google makes adjustments to account for and so forth, but Google understands their algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
The AI systems don't fully understand their algorithm. So how do you fully protect it from being gamed?
Yeah.
And again, they've got smarter engineers than I. So I expect that they're thinking about this. They're trying to figure it out. But there is this potential that you break consumer trust in the process when something does happen.
Yeah. So final topic on this, and that. So I can see how simple transactions are done, but when it comes to AI and more complex transaction, I want to book my vacation. Those, I think we're quite far away from that type of transaction because it's complex, it's multi-step, multi-variable, and it involves usually more than one person in that conversation to kind of collaborate to get to that point. So I've actually thought about it, but I can't see how we can bridge that gap in a collaborative purchasing multi-step experience yet when it comes to agentic buying, besides the initial process of research.
Yeah, I'm not sure I share that. I think there's actually quite a lot of potential there. I don't see a multi-person conversation being that technically difficult, but maybe I'm just underestimating it. I think it's actually quite fascinating how you can bring a group of people together with an agent, and it might actually help the conversation along.
Speaking of which, OpenAI released a group chat type feature where you can have a group chat of a bunch of people and you can add OpenAI to conversation or GPT to conversation, and it would prompt that you would interact and join a conversation. I think that perhaps that is the initial window to how that collaboration will work.
Yeah, I think you mentioned booking vacations. I think AI actually has a huge potential there to actually fulfill some of that. I know I'm much different than my wife in this aspect. I don't plan vacations. She does. She plans everything down to a T. I like show up and I'll just follow you wherever we go. But she'll put spreadsheets together saying, oh, we got to be here and here, and we're going to book this there. And I mean, AI would be fantastic in putting that schedule together and recommending places, making sure there's no scheduling conflicts.
Yeah,
I see it very helpful. And why not? I actually think I'd be more likely to fulfill through AI on say booking a hotel.
Yeah.
Than say buying a product, because hotel, I mean, yeah, there's some risk. You're going to be there for a couple nights and maybe it's not as great as you hoped. But you're not stuck with it at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think what would convince me to book my vacation on AI is if the agent can do that last mile and wake my daughter up during the vacation so that we don't miss everything during the morning activity. But I digress.
But they can. You can. Why not?
I don't think setting the alarm is sufficient. I think that it requires physical interaction
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Provide a phone number, have them call over and over and over again.
So, okay, and with that, I think that's the wrap. Ed, I really appreciate you joining us for this conversation and insightful as usual.
That was absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you. So, Ed, do you want to plug some of your products before we close this out?
No.
I think Angela has something to do with it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think I can see both my business partners just, bending my ear right now. Yeah, I mean, we're at the forefront right now of bringing basically full end-to-end insurance to brokers who want to sell this stuff online through Mango Policy. We allow brokers to sell in their sleep through a platform which we call basically the Shopify of insurance, letting people set up storefronts. And then, yeah, we already talked about on the context from Relevant Bits, which is all about personalizing your Shopify store. So, and yeah, by the time this airs, there might be 5 other products I'm trying to pitch at the same time, because I love building this stuff. I love being creative, and I love talking to people like you guys. People want to chat about anything. I'm always available on LinkedIn, and hit me up.
Thank you, Ed. And for anybody else who, if you're an enterprise and you are trying to start your AI journey, please reach out to us and have a conversation, because that's what we're all about. We are able to deploy enterprise solutions that can clearly show ROI and a clear path forward. So thank you, Ed. Thank you, Chase. And that's the wrap.
All right, thank you, guys.
Make it.
Thighsberry AI Podcast. Today's guest, Ed DeGroot. Clicks to agents, AI and the new era of e-commerce.